Hi everybody, going to repot my quince, my flowering quince today. The first thing you really need to do is decide roughly what you're going to do with it. This quince was air layered 2 years ago, and it's been growing in a pot for a year. So I'm going to be looking at it over a period of time, and what I'm going to do is plant it at that angle. You can see this thing becomes a branch. Just tipping an angle like that can actually make a huge difference to a bonsai. This is grow and clip and grow. Quince does not take well to wiring, so there won't be any wiring involved in this. So if you can get an air layered quince, brilliant. First thing you need to do is, this is going into its semi-permanent pot now. So I'm looking for a nice pot for it. I've selected one. Hopefully it will sit nice in it. That's the pot. And this should sit fairly nicely, like so. We'll see how things go. However, this is to be edited. Just turning it up. I want a picture of that. Just to give, just for my own record. So, first step is take off the stuff at the top. This is all weeds. Unfortunately, in normal gardens, you don't have, and if you're working particularly, you won't have time to keep things pristine. Generally what you see with clubs, etc., when they're showing bonsai, they've spent a couple of weeks working on that bonsai, sometimes to the detriment of the rest of their collection, in order to show it. Put it into a competition, put it into a club show, that sort of thing. So don't get too hung up on the absolute pristine bonsais. About 90% of their lives, they're not going to be growing like that. They're going to have weeds on them. It's just a case of keeping on top of them, just like any other gardening. And these are in deep. That was all weeds that came out. The bottom of this pot is probably about 90% of the actual quince fibrous roots. Save some of that moss to put back. If you're going to save moss and it's got a lot of weeds flowing through it, make sure you don't save weeds with it. As you can see, it can be fairly brittle and you're exposing more and more of that trunk. However, that's probably enough. I'll start from the bottom there, just pushing out as much of the root ball as I can. I'm going to have some sweeping up to do at the end of that. I did put a tiny amount of drainage material because it was such a young plant, and that's probably going to go in like so. Because it's a round pot, I don't need to worry too much about the front and back. Make sure you don't put any of your old soil in if it's got a lot of roots in it, a lot of weeds in it. You're just basically potting on the weeds then. So the next stage, you actually want it to sit slightly high in the pot. This is so that you can get all this, get a nice spread of roots at the top. Something I've not been too successful with, I have to say. I've seen other growers. I'm going to have to actually have words with a few growers and see what they do in order to get a better root spread. It's one of the aspects of my bonsai that is not great. So I'll just go in there. What I'm going to do is, that's a little bit of mesh. I'm just going to pop that over the drainage hole and put it down with some compost. And the other thing I'm going to do here is, at this point, is pop that back in there for a moment. Try and get some fresh compost underneath. When I repot, I try to repot them higher in the pot than they were sitting. Two reasons for that. One is it allows growth to come down and eventually you can bring down the size of the pot nicely. The other thing is, as the rain runs down this, certain roots will become exposed. It's letting the rain do some of the job for you, rather than you going to the work of sitting, combing, raking to try and get that root spread. I'm going to have to start raking, something I was not willing to try straight off the bat. That goes back to when you're learning, and we're always learning, small, and see how it works. If you do too much, you might have to completely redo the whole bonsai. You might have to stick it in a bigger pot, grow it on for a couple of years, change the size, change the style. We see what happens. Anyway. I'm going to get into trouble for this. If you're going to use a kitchen table, then please make sure it's okay with the other people in the house. If you've got a partner, check with them, because especially if you want to keep your partner. Luckily I have Helen, who is wonderful, and as long as I clean up after myself, she's okay with it. Also, technically at the moment, this house is mine, so we still have not quite moved in with each other. For those of you watching the permaculture side of our videos, you know we have plans. Now, because this is only a year, maybe two, I'm not going overboard with the mix. There's all different sorts of bonsai mixes, and a lot of it is to keep the drainage going, and that is all well and good. What I found in Scotland is, although we've got a reputation for being very wet, it can get very dry very quickly. I've lost bonsai between me watering them in the morning or deciding not to water them in the morning because it looks like it's going to rain all day, to them being completely sun-scorched, and I'm having to take two, 3 years, particularly my maples. Since I don't know this species, flowering quince, and this is the first flowering quince I've actually tried, I'm not going overboard with the mix. I will change that as I see how growing goes. The conditions in your area, if it's more stable, people keep on telling, oh, you're cold and wet in Scotland. We're not, we're actually very changeable. When we get dry, we get really dry, and the sun seems to have a lot of UV in it. So your conditions, wherever you happen to be, change, and they can change within a country. It's not even a case of, this might be peculiar to the west of Scotland, I don't know. I've only really lived in the west of Scotland. I've lived in England as well. However, west of Scotland is about what I know. So I am going to, that should be fine for it growing on, and we'll see how much more growth we get at the top. All these long shoots will hopefully give off new buds. I can trim back. I can now spend the next 2 years trimming it back. I can change the mix the next time I repot it, which for a new tree can be every year. If it's a micro size, yes, definitely every year. If it's a slightly older tree, it might not be that often. It's as and when it needs it. When it stops putting out a lot of growth, it's time to repot it. At that point, I will use a proper bonsai mix, about a third chaff sand, a third good quality compost, and I will probably put in either akadama or sphagnum moss to hold some moisture. At the moment, I am just using compost. This is to try and encourage as much new growth roots as I can. So, give that a quick spray down and a water in. Might need a little bit more soil. You need to see how the water takes for it. That might even take a couple of showers outside. Couple of heavy rain showers, and it's amazing how the pots can go down from when you are potting it to when you check it next, and you might have to put some more compost on the top. Don't forget, you need to kind of leave a little bit of room for moss. This is for beginner bonsais. If that's not suitable really to be shown, it is purely and simply to get you started. All of these projects are starter projects. But saying that, it already looks like a bonsai. Once the leaves and etc. comes in, I will bring it back. I will probably do a short and put that up, showing you how it's progressing. And the next time I repot it, I will probably use footage from this. So stay tuned, and if you feel like subscribing, subscribe. I hate telling people what to do, but it would help me out. So, one repotted quince tree. It's Simple as that, throw it in a pot. And try a bonsai. What you got to lose? If not, you get a really nice tree. If not, if you don't, you can always catch it, plant it out in your garden or a field somewhere, and watch it grow. It comes back to full size in no time. Thank you for watching. I'm going to go and wash my hands.